will hear TikTok's case 9 days before the congressionally imposed ban is set to take effect. A brief order from the court says the justices have for now deferred their decision on whether to extend or block that deadline. TikTok has argued that requiring a sale of the app by Chinese-owned ByteDance violates the First Amendment. President-elect Trump has said he has a soft spot in his heart for the app, but the Biden administration and congressional leaders of both parties say it could serve as a dangerous propaganda and spy tool for Beijing.
House
Hey, welcome, Fargo, on a cold and blustery day. This is your host, the Talk of the Town, Jon Adams. I will be having a young man join me shortly, but we're going to skip right to James. Like I've been talking for 10 minutes, I got to skip to something. What do you do?
There's no worries with that.
I guess, hey, you know what? I am what I am in this life. So first, I want to talk about how about those Minnesota Vikings? At some point, people need to start putting some respect on the Vikings name. Okay?
We're surviving.
Hey, listen, man. I don't care if you win by 200 points or you win by 1, you're winning games. And anybody out there who is not convinced that the Vikings are the real deal, now let's calm down. Let's remember, when I say the real deal, I'm saying that they are a top-tier team. I'm not saying they're a Super Bowl contender. But we need to start acknowledging that they're doing something pretty special in Minnesota because nobody put them on 12-2. As a diehard Viking fan, I put them on 10-6. And that's like being realistic. I said 10-6 at the beginning of the season. So the fact that they are two games over, we need to start saying that the Vikings are for real. Now, I say they're for real in this manner. I don't know if they can win a playoff game, but I think that they can be upset-minded. You know? Because I'm sorry, they've been an underdog and dang near, whether they're an underdog in the betting line, which we know that's a whole different thing, but every game it feels like nobody believed the Vikings would win the game. And now guess what? The pundits are now saying the Vikings would be foolish not to keep Sam Darnold. Think about the beginning of the year and the way people talked about slinging Sammy Darnold. I hope that nickname sticks so I can take credit for it. But anyway, think about that. I mean, they were like, yeah, he's a journeyman quarterback. He's got happy feet. He's seeing ghosts. All he's done is led this team to 11-2. So, you know what? Anybody want to call in and talk about it, you can call in and talk about it, but I'm saying it right now. People better start respecting my Minnesota Vikings. And if they don't, hey, you know what? I still got the Bison. And we might as well talk about that too. So I went to the Bison game this last week. Thank you, Doug Johnson, for the ticket. It was a weird game because the Bison dominated it from start to finish, but it didn't feel like they dominated. And we were, you're sitting there waiting for them. And of course, Bison fans are an interesting lot. You can't just win. You've got to decimate people. And for those of us who have played or even been competitive, that's where you have to give your opponent some credit. I thought that Mercer defense was pretty tough. I mean, they hung in there. They gave up some big runs here and there. They gave up a couple long drives. But you know what? They were physical. They got some Bison on some 3-and-outs. The Bison run game wasn't as vaunted as I thought it would have been. But you know what? This is playoff football, Bison fans. And it's a shame that the Dome was partially filled. But, I've been hard on Bison fans for the past couple of weeks. But I'm going to let up because Doug Johnson said something interesting. He said, people got to remember that most of these football games late in the season take place on the weekend and around holidays. Well, if you know me, faith, family, football, and it depends on what's going on as to what order. Well, it never dawned on me that, you know what? Maybe people have lives outside of NDSU football, and maybe that's why people aren't showing up. You think that might be true, James? You think that people have lives outside of Bison football?
Some people might. I have yet to meet one, though.
Bite your tongue, young man. It's not. Hey, it's not It's not deep-seated religion. It's much more important than that. It's Bison foot. Actually, Bison football could be a religion. I mean, think about it. We're out here roasting animals, right?
All right.
We have chants and cheers. They're singing. By the way, if the Bison win, one of my favorite things is, I don't know what that country western song is they play after.
If you're going to play in Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't know everything, James.
Yeah. Well, the fiddle sounds a lot better than what I just did, though.
Yeah, that one. But you know what? I mean, I said it before. I'm officially a North Dakotan. And I can tell you that as a brother, it took me a long time to really embrace that. Because I'm not a cowboy. I'm scared of farm animals. I can't build anything. I can't weld anything. Like I said, the most amazing thing to me is being a city mouse and watching these rural kids build stuff, Like when I was in college, this dude was like, me and my dad will build a weight set. They built it. I was just talking to a kid. He's getting a truck for his birthday or something. And he was talking about how he was going to modify the thing himself. I don't know what that means. but it sounded pretty cool. But anyway, I digress. If you're wondering, no, I haven't taken my medicine, but I think not taking my medicine makes it fun because we talk about so much stuff on the radio. So with that, I don't know if you guys can see, but Mr. Fred Edwards is on the show. Hey, welcome to the show, Mr. Fred. So I don't know if you guys can see me. Mr. Gibson, it's not your turn yet.
Sorry, my bad.
Hold on.
Wait, my bad, man. I got excited. You said Fred. My bad.
But, I love doing this show. I love doing this show because I feel like every week, if it's not an open show, I get to bring people on from the community. And I'm convinced that having this show has allowed me to remind people that we live in a great place in America. And I always say in the world. And now with this job at South High.
Davies. Medicine.
Now this job at Davies has allowed me to really re-engage in the community. And I'm going to say it, man. We have fantastic high schoolers. Okay? And all you have to do is be engaged with these young people. They're doing fantastic stuff. But to hear everybody say it's a TikTok generation and it's a lost generation, all this, that's crap. That's crap because I meet these kids every day and they're doing fantastic stuff. And if you're one of those people that are down on education, I would suggest that you go to one of our high schools and get involved and quit bad-mouthing these teachers and the administration. Now, I got to tell you, I'm not real excited about some of the rules and some of the way things play out. Like, I don't know if it's EB. I don't even know what it's called, but it's a philosophy in testing now where you can retest or take a test over. I'm not going to get into the weeds in it because I don't know, but there are questions that I have about it. But even at the top level, it's not like people just arbitrarily decide what they're going to do in these high schools. There's a school board. There's a whole group of people that are intelligent and try to do what they think is best for the school. Okay, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But what I'm saying is we need to back up off a lot of the education talk that I'm hearing about, the schools aren't doing well and we're failing students. A lot of times it's nobody's fault, okay?
Mr. Adams, can I interject?
Not yet.
I got
This is the part where
I'm going to try to remember. I'm going to try to remember what some points she's saying.
Try to remember.
All right, let me take some notes for sure.
But what I'm saying is, despite all the stuff we hear, whether it's the superintendents, whether it's the school board, it's the teachers, I see people in our schools doing fantastic things. And it's very important that we get behind people. And so the young man that I have on the radio to my left, by the way, Mr. Gibson, the rest of the show is going to be all about you. So,
oh, man.
But this is Mr. Gibson, and he's part of the Umoja group headed up by Mr. Fred Edwards Jr., a man that I call a friend and I respect very much because this guy's putting his money where his mouth is, okay? And that's one of the things that I love about Fargo is that there are a ton of opportunities to be about the community and the Umoja group right out there at front. And I'm going to tell a little story, then I'm going to let you go, Mr. Gibson. I asked Mr. Fred Edwards Jr., hey, I'm doing this little thing over here. I was wondering if you could give me a hand. And he said, you know what? I would love to, Mr. Adams, but my focus is these young people. That spoke volumes about who he is. And so with that, Umoja is at Davies High, and I met Mr. Gibson, and we were talking. I was like, this is another person that needs to be in front of my audience, and people need to understand the people that are willing to put themselves out there to help our young people. So with that, James is going to say we got to go to a break in about 2 minutes.
I can make that work.
But
we can give you 2 minutes if you need.
Give me 2 minutes because Mr.
you.
Gibson has been chomping at the bit, and I got to let him say something. Mr. Gibson, well, thank you for being patient, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing today, sir?
I'm very blessed. And yourself? I'm
doing fantastic. You see, I'm high. I'm ready to go because I was with the kids. Great things happened this morning. You're here, and it's, dude, I'm excited.
Absolutely.
So, Umoja, we're going to talk about when we get back, but you're from California.
Yeah.
I never understand how people make their way from a beautiful, warm climate to Fargo.
Beautiful climate. Typically, it's for love, and I definitely was upon in that same group. So
Did you say for love?
you heard correct.
Oh, and with that, we're going to have to go to break. But when we come back, Mr. Gibson is going to explain how he ended up in Fargo for love, as well as we're going to talk about the Umoja Group. We're going to talk about some lifestyle living. And this is Jon Adams with Talk of the Town. If you want to call in, the phone number is 701-293-9000. Or you can call in at studio, WDAYnow.com. Where's the Christmas music, dog? I mean, I like the music. This sounds like some
John Legend.
Quentin Tarantino music.
Yeah.
Is that Jason?
This is
the
our
Corner?
generation, hope of the world. I thought that's what we were talking about today.
Is that big? Is Jason the Corner?
He is. He just showed up.
What's up, baby? Oh, man. I'm so, you know what, man? Praise the Lord. I'm happy to see you, fella. All right. With that, we do have a radio show to do, Jace, so quit hogging off. You know what? I've heard of attention seeking, but I think you took it to a new level. Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Talk of Town. I'm here with Mr. Gibson. Mr. Gibson had told us, as you know, he's from California, and he told me, he said, hey, I moved to California. I moved from California to Fargo for love.
Indeed.
So let's go on and talk about that.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I was in California doing similar work that I'm doing right now out here, working with the youth, coaching, just trying to get some, meaningful opportunities. We moved from Stockton, so I don't know if you know a little bit about Stockton. Beautiful city, beautiful culture. One of the first larger cities in the United States of America to file for bankruptcy. So we just had a lot of issues going on. Not
Isn't
a lot
that
of
the home of Sam Crow?
the home of Sam Crow.
Yeah.
So tell me who Sam Crow is.
Sons of Anarchy, motorcycle gang.
Oh, that was. Yo, so I never actually watched the show, but every time I say Stockton, people be like, have you seen Sons of Anarchy? No, never.
This is what I do, baby.
There you go.
Anyway, so you fell in love, and was she from Fargo?
No, I met her when I was going to school in Minnesota. So I left California when I was a young man to.
You're still a young man.
Nah, man.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Masabi Range first.
Okay.
Iron
man.
Range.
You're,
Iron Range.
You're a ranger?
Yeah. I don't know if I can call
Oh,
myself
man.
that. I'm not going
Hey,
to call myself
How
a
long were
ranger.
you there?
2 years.
You're a baby ranger.
Baby Ranger.
But you know that Jay Thomas is from Virginia, or
Really?
he's from or Hibbing, one of the two.
Yeah, that's right there.
Yeah, he's a ranger, dude.
Wow. Small
yeah,
world. I mean,
right. The world keeps getting smaller.
Yeah.
So then you met her, and you said, "Well, let's go to Fargo." I hear that.
No, God, no. I met her. You know when you're young, dumb, and loving.
No,
You know,
no,
you gotta know.
I don't.
We've all done this.
Mm.
The on and off. No, not all of us. You a good, wholesome man though.
You understand that my wife and I, there was no on and off. She was like, "You're mine. That's it."
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I had to go with her. She made that perfectly clear.
That's a
31 years later, we're still happily married.
Beautiful story.
It's the way it goes.
I tried.
So let's talk about your moja.
Yeah.
Because I met Fred, I suppose, a year and a half. Fred Edwards Jr. You can't say Fred. You got to throw the junior in.
Gotta
there
say
so people-
junior.
And I met him, and first, I loved his energy.
Mm.
Okay? And the funny thing is I don't know if it was a TED Talk, but it was just a video. And just, I don't know how it happened, but I met him.
Mm.
And for those of you, if you haven't met him, his smile, his vibe is infectious,
Mm.
right? And he has the ability to persuade you, hey, man, we need to go get this thing done, right?
Mm.
120 miles an hour. So in terms of your moja, how have you morphed in with that?
We actually created it together. In 2020, I was working at YouthWorks in our outreach department, and you remember 2020, crazy year, Corona, bunch of stuff.
Yes.
Popped out. You know. So we had a lot of kids I was working with that were looking to get their voice out there, and I hadn't heard of Fred specifically, but I heard of a few groups that he was working with at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to those groups just to try to see if some of our youth could connect with them and possibly utilize their stage platform to get their voice out. And nobody responded back except for Fred. So, I mean, it's a big group of people. I'm not going to say their name, but Fred was the only one that took the mantle up to actually, respond to people from the community reaching out. So we spent that summer in 2020 just, really getting to develop a relationship as brothers first. And then we started talking, and we were like, yo, we should definitely do something with these conversations and meetings we've been having for the past 3 months, so on and so forth. Moja is created out of those conversations. And then Fred argued Moja for his master's thesis or master's dissertation. So,
And he's now a fellow.
and he's now a Bush fellow and about to be a doctor.
I'm going to have to call him Dr. Mr. Fred.
Doctor, I think Dr. Edwards.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
So talk about the love of working with young people, because that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
The vehicle is the success that these kids have,
Mm.
and it stems from, for me there were people in my community that helped me just like I'm helping kids now.
Mm.
And you don't lose that, first of all, because you're thankful, but the second is you're giving these kids, first you said a voice,
Yeah.
second a belief in themselves.
Precisely.
So where does that come from?
Probably for the lack thereof in our lives, in my life specifically, and the moments where I did get that.
I don't know what the lack thereof is. So
I'll explain. So
Okay.
the lack thereof, I had a great father, military vet.
Okay.
He had some issues, as you can imagine.
Okay.
Just from seeing some stuff. So he wasn't as present. He really wasn't that present. But I had some great mentors in the community, coaches, whatnot, that stepped up and provided, I guess, not the father experience all the way, but just, that voice that you're looking for.
the man experience.
The man experience. Exactly. The man experience. So I was able to balance as a kid and look at, all right, my life without these things in the home, I can see how that can maybe lead to me not being as supportive. But my life with these people, you know, who are blessed that were brought into my life, this is what that did for me. So I just started thinking about that as a kid. That's where it really started. And in the 4th grade, I decided to start like my first community group. It was called God's Choice for Boys.
Stop.
Yeah.
Did you say the 4th grade?
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah. So the idea was behind it. A lot of my friends, we experienced like gun violence. So we saw people just in our community that were older than us that were there one week and then they were like gone the next. So I was like, yo, this is like, this is pretty crazy, you know? But my friends were just moving through, and we're like 4th and 5th graders. We're just moving through trying to survive. And I was like talking to my mom. I was very involved in church. I was like, we need to have somebody come talk to us because this is starting to get crazy. So designed a group to have pastors come out from the church and just meet with us and just give us some direction. So they would bring like, I would get materials for us to fill out that would lead to generating conversation. So that was the first step. I think where I can remember like, all right, yeah, I think there's something with working with youth in a capacity and utilizing our voice for first healing. I think that's what we needed in those situations was healing and actually like, yo, you know somebody, you saw this guy, you played basketball with this guy and he got shot with a shotgun yesterday. So are we not going to talk about this? Are we just going to move on? And a lot of our parents is working hard, trying to survive. Maybe didn't have time to have those conversations or proper resources at those times. So I was just starting to think, what can we do for ourselves instead of always looking for somebody? Like, we got ourselves right here. We can do something with this.
Right? That is amazing. I was just sitting here thinking, and all that came to my head was shared trauma.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
A friend of the family died recently. And I was
Sorry,
talking to he's Native American, and they had a 10-hour ceremony, and my cousin was describing it to me, and just everything about it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a similar experience, and you guys are all getting together as young people trying to work your way through this. And like you said, what I found is even in our society today, it's not that adults don't want to be there, but now more than ever, people work.
Yeah.
Right? Now more than ever, people work hard. They get home, they're tired.
Yeah.
Okay? Now more than ever, kids have their friend group more than they have their family.
Yeah.
And it's just the nature of the way society is built now.
Yeah.
And so I hear so often, oh, these kids are this and that. And even in the high schools, listening to people, and the overall theme that I get is they're just being teenagers.
Yeah.
But the difference is they're being teenagers with access to the world. Right?
Different.
But yet, we're trying to put them in this box where they should be teenagers.
Yeah.
And it's like they're wise beyond their years. They've seen more than they should ever see. But yet we want them to be more responsible.
Yeah.
And I keep preaching to these guys. By the way, I call the students at Davies my babies now.
Yeah.
It took me a week and a half before I told them, I said, you guys are my babies. I'm looking out for you. This is what I'm here for.
Yeah.
But they were like, well, why are you doing it? I said, because you guys are teenagers. And, and it's funny because teenagers tend to think that everything they do is the first time anybody's ever done it.
Oh, yeah.
Or the trauma that they have is bigger than anybody else's trauma.
Yeah.
That's teenager stuff.
Yeah.
And so I let them know, hey, listen, I get it. Right. We don't count. I know I'm not important to you, but guess what? I'm here just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case you might need some old school wisdom.
Yeah.
And you had that as a 4th and 5th grader. It's amazing. Well, Big Game James says we're up against the break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk more. What's your first name?
Janelle.
Mr. Janelle Gibson. When we come back, this is Jon Adams with Talk of the Town. If you want to call in, the phone number is 701-293-9000, or you can email at studio@wdayradionow.com. Anyway, hey, welcome back to Talk of the Town with Jon Adams. I'm giving James a hard time, but you know what? He really does do a good job.
We'll play Christmas music to wrap it up. You always tell me to play songs like that. Now I'm in trouble.
You're not in trouble. I'm just saying it's festive, man. Let's get festive.
We'll get festive.
By the way, do you know that somebody had the nerve to tell me that Santa Claus doesn't exist? Oh, that poor person.
Do we throw him to the devil in hell or what?
I don't know what happened, but I'm telling you, Santa Claus is coming to my house.
Better come to mine, too.
I sent a very specific list.
Yeah, I told him I needed a new car. I'm expecting that on Christmas Day.
Well, have you been good enough to get a new car?
Probably
James?
not.
He might get you a used car. You never know.
Yeah. I'm a used car kind of guy.
Well, okay. Well, hold on, hope. I'm talking to the appropriate people.
Oh, that's a good one.
Anyway, hey, welcome back to Talking the Town with Jon Adams. I'm a little bit distracted. I'm here with Mr.
Gibson.
I almost called you Tyrese.
Because Tyrese Gibson? Oh, my goodness. That
I'm
would have
here
been a
with
good
Mr. Gibson. We're going to leave it at Mr. Gibson. We were talking about your upbringing. We were talking about your life of service that began at an early age. And that's, I'm a PK.
Okay.
And, of course, when your dad's a minister, you learn a life of service.
Yeah.
It sounds like you were forced into a life of service just through your circumstance, not of your own making, but recognizing that you and your friends needed help.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Well, along the same lines you said.
Yeah,
My mom was an elder in the church, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
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 And, hey,
She was a hippie elder, so that was an interesting upbringing.
dog, man.
Yeah.
So we have a very similar background.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. All right, well, that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
But one of the things that, I'm talking about these kids, and we're talking about the need within us to help these kids. Some of the things that we have to talk about, because these kids don't understand, sometimes you have to do things. You have to be purposeful. You have to be purposeful. And so a lot of times when I'm telling these kids, I talk to them about, hey, you guys ever just put your phones down and have conversations?
Yeah.
Are you actually listening to one another? And how do you guys disconnect?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're dealing with people, and not just these kids, but let's talk about that, because I think part of the things that's lost is honest conversation.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you're talking to these kids and you're looking them in the eye, and it's something they want to hear,
Mm-hmm.
the level of genuine interest is outstanding.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do when you talk to them about disconnecting and stuff like that?
There's a few different approaches that I take. So one is just a science approach, as far as what that amount of stimulation does to your brain consistently. So we'll go over that. I'll go over that with kids all the time.
And
my
what
son.
does that amount of stimulus, briefly tell us about that?
It just leads to confusion, non-clarity,
what?
or lack of clarity.
You telling me that my
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes an hour on TikTok, is that, maybe I don't have ADHD. Maybe it's just I'm on social media too much.
Possibly. I'm not sure of your usage, but I'll have that conversation consistently. And then I kind of always talk about what you just said right now, that human connection, and not leaving that element, because that does a lot of healing for us, and that does a lot of mental healing for us, being able to do this and bounce vibrations off of each other in real time. There's studies behind it that show that we need that human relationship, which is what was very tough, especially as educators, even creating the Moja program coming out of COVID was, maybe for 6 to 8 months, youth were really disconnected. Right. So then coming back,
what a tragedy for those kids.
Yeah. Coming back into the school district, you got to imagine, nothing like that. I don't know in your lifetime. I know in my lifetime, that in history, that hadn't happened, at least since I've been here in America. I've never spent 6 to 8 months disconnected from society. And we saw some serious adverse effects coming back into the school. You got to think for 6 months, I've been on my phone, able to just dig into whatever is on there without much guidance from yourself or much group guidance from peers. So I'm cultivating, and if my parents are still trying to work during that time period, still trying to be there, I'm cultivating all these ideas and picking up all this stuff, like you said, from TikTok, Snapchat, without much guidance regarding what is reality and how that affects myself or people. So always talk about the importance of disconnecting as it relates to not just putting down the phone, but even disconnecting and like getting out the city, getting out of hearing the sounds of the city, and having some actual time for your brain and your thoughts. And I don't think kids know themselves and what they're capable of because they haven't had time to really dig into themselves because they put all their energy into a cell phone or some sort of app.
The number of times that I ask these kids, you guys ever just go outside and just sit and just enjoy, just sit?
Yeah.
And it's funny because we built a new deck on the back of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always got to be doing something. If you ask anybody that I call on the phone, and you'll find out that if I'm talking to you, I'm also typing on the computer. I've got the phone on and the Xbox is running.
Yeah.
And part of that is it helps me be calm.
Yeah.
Right? But there are times like this year, I just went and sat on the deck, and for the first time, I just fell asleep on the furniture, and I was like, "Oh, this is what people are talking about."
Yeah.
And it was so noticeable in my brain that was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
okay," and so or maybe I'm just getting older and I enjoy those.
Yeah, maybe
things.
that might have been it.
But it really did. But that's not true because also when we go camping in Canada, when we go to the cabin or like going down to the lakes,
Yeah.
sometimes you're just sitting there, not doing anything, just enjoying the lake.
Yeah.
Or for me, I've got to fish and enjoy the lake or swim. But that's the type of stuff. But a lot of times these kids don't have access.
Mm-mm.
It's kind of like I said, they built that beautiful complex, athletic complex, away from the people that really need it.
Yeah.
Most of our youth don't have the resources to travel to that facility. And I just thought in my head, where are most of the kids that need that centrally located? Because I could tell you where it is.
Yeah.
Most of those kids have cars.
Yeah.
But I'm not on the city commission. I'm not on the city council. I'm not down on them for where they put it. But, these are some of the things. Where is the place that our youth can go? And I've said it before, we need to pay more attention to what we're doing to retain these kids in our community.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Why do you think that would be important?
Why do I think that would be important?
Yeah.
Because what happens if we don't have it?
What do you think happens?
Well, they're left to their own devices. Then they create their fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And I don't care if you build 600 basketball courts around. They'll go there.
Yeah.
God bless America. Think about the dike, the basketball courts down. Those are constantly filled.
Yeah.
We don't have enough spaces where these people can go and do what they need to do. We don't have computer centers. We don't have. Hey, when I was growing up, we had drop-in centers. We had boys clubs, massive buildings where we could go and we could do some crafts. I can remember making a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
And I'm in the city. I guess we did use them to shoot at squirrels, but when you have to whittle your own arrow, they don't fly straight.
Yeah. No.
Well, the point is, there's not enough to captivate the youth. The arts, I mean, there are a ton of kids in our high school even that love to draw, that love to be engaged. A center where they could go and learn drafting or learn how to use a computer to design things.
Yeah.
That's what we're missing here.
Yeah.
And I don't have all the answers, but I know this much. If we don't pay attention, they don't stay. All right? Now, our community is aging here, okay? It's just like the need for our youth to develop jobs within work-based learning, which is the trades. There's been so much focus on going to college, but not much focus on the things that really matter. Now, I'm not saying that college doesn't matter, but a lot of kids go to college and come out with a degree that they can't use or they can't make enough money to pay for the loans that they accrued while they were in college.
Yeah.
But we know that plumbing, we know that welding, we know that electricity, great jobs. We need to cultivate. There are kids now that I talked to. A kid told me the other day, I think I'd like to be a welder. And I talked about these travel welders that go across the country welding and stuff like that, and companies pay for them to do different things.
Yeah.
Really? How do these kids not know that? But it's a big elephant.
Yeah. Meeting
the needs of our youth in this community are a big elephant, and you're doing it, Fred is doing it, I'm doing it. It takes a village.
Yeah.
Even if the village is 250,000 people, but We need to put the emphasis where it needs to be. Okay?
Yeah.
I just spoke to a girl. She was like, I'm like, what are you doing tonight? She goes, well, I'm going to church. I said, it's Tuesday. She said, I know, but I like church. And I was like, how refreshing.
Yeah.
You know, we need to have our religion. And here's the thing. It's not the kids that want to. It's the kids that want to but aren't sure. Okay? Because the kids that want to are going to figure out a way to get there.
Yeah.
But the kids that want to and aren't sure, like when you talk to them, hey, man, you could be great at math. I can? Well, yeah, here's the resources. And all of a sudden that kid blossoms.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do in our community. Well, Big Game James says we got to pay the bills for wherever gets a break. When we come back, we're going to wrap it up with Mr. Gibson. We're talking youth. We're talking disconnecting. We did talk Vikings, but that ship has sailed. This is Jon Adams. If you want to call in, the phone number is 701-293-9000 or email us, studio at wdayradionow.com. That's what I'm talking about, Big Game James.
See, I learn.
Yes.
Takes
And-
2 or 3 times, but I learn.
Yeah, but you know what the beautiful part, James, is not only did you play Christmas music, you knew that everybody loves Little Michael singing Santa Claus is coming to town.
See,
Huh?
I'm not as dull as I get credit for sometimes.
You know what? You are a hidden gem, my friend. You do good work.
Thank you.
So I'm here with Mr. Gibson, and we're talking everything Umoja. We're talking about connecting with the youth in our community, what he thinks it's going to take for us to move the needle forward so that we remain a viable, strong community. And, you know, I've said it before, if you don't take care of these young people, they'll go someplace else, okay? If we don't have things that interest them, you know, if we're not meeting their needs, they'll find it someplace else.
Or worse.
We don't like to talk about the worst, but you are exactly correct, right? I mean, I want you guys to think about this. Think about if you can think back when you were a teenager. I mean, we knew everything, and we knew nothing. But sometimes I think we forget that. And everything in your world as a teenager is the most important thing. And we hear from, I mean, every little thing is a crisis, you know, like a 4-alarm fire. But I can remember when I wanted some Nikes and I didn't get them. I thought it was the end of the world. And my dad said, well, if you're talented, it don't matter what shoes you got on your feet, boy.
Yeah.
So you could also go out there and earn some money if you want those Nikes. And I did. I cut grass all summer. Oh, classic story. Anyway, so I know now I've been to a couple of Umoja events. The latest one was the Juneteenth celebration. That was amazing downtown. Hats off to you guys. But also, you guys have some upcoming events now, right?
Absolutely.
And the next one is on my birthday.
January 20th?
No. Martin Luther King's actual birthday is January 15th.
Yeah.
Which is his actual birthday. But your event,
on
even though it's not on his birthday, you're having a Martin Luther King celebration.
Yes.
And I went to the last one, and just the talent level of these young people is amazing. And the way that I always find it amazing that they put themselves out there. You know, if you've ever had to perform by yourself as a youth, I mean, there was poetry, there were young people singing, and that ain't easy.
No.
You know?
Not
and then
at all.
you're in, now it's different. Okay, if you belong to the school choir and you have a solo in the choir, you know that audience, meaning that it's going to be parents, administrators, friends, right?
Yeah.
But then Umoja is for the community. So you're performing in front of strangers.
Yeah.
It's a different vibe.
Yeah.
You know, there's no comfort zone there, but yet these young people get up there and they do an amazing job.
And that's why we have a lot of faith in this generation, because we
Right.
think about ourselves, even with our upbringing. Yeah, we did some stuff, but to do something of that magnitude, and like you said, in front of an audience of 500 people that you have no idea who they are, where they're coming from, what they might think about what you're doing, that is a lot of confidence, a lot of trusting of yourself. So if we can see people do that, youth do that, in that grand of a stage, and that's one of the biggest fears that we have as human beings, right, is speaking in front of an audience. And if they can do that, I mean, really, sky's the limit as far as what they can accomplish. Like, if you want to be an accountant, you can be an accountant. You stood in front of 500 people and essentially let out the most inner parts of yourself to these people. And made yourself extremely vulnerable. So what else in life can you be vulnerable for to succeed? And I think I got to give a lot of credit to Fred for specifically for putting together the MLK Day events. And I got to give credit to the youth that take part in that, and then credit to ourselves. I think the 16-week educational material that we lay out, that really starts to prepare youth for those moments and those conversations. As far as vulnerability goes, even having complete class segments dedicated to what vulnerability is.
Right.
I think that starts to help prepare people for, getting up on that big stage. Like, were you comfortable when we have discussions in the classroom about your traumatic past history, right? That's a lot to share in front of even 15 kids.
Right. And what's more than that is you can see on their faces, I did that.
Yeah.
Well, with that, Big Game James is playing us out, which means that this is the end of the hour. I want to thank you for coming on, Mr. Gibson. I promise when you come back,
EmojiIncorporated.com.
Excuse me?
EmojiIncorporated.com.
If you want to be involved, this is Umoja.com.
Incorporated.
EmojiIncorporated.com. This is Jon Adams for Talk of the Town. Have a great week. Merry Christmas, and as always, stay black.
Thank you.